Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the CEO of Dynamic Boards, and we advertise all the NED roles from across the UK. It's free to sign up and view roles on Dynamic Boards, and all are welcome. Today, I've got two NEDs from Incommunities with me, Ade and Juliette. Welcome to both of you. So, Incommunities is one of the largest housing associations in the West Yorkshire region. They provide over 22,000 homes to individuals and families across Bradford and West Yorkshire. They're looking for two new NEDs, one bringing asset management experience and the other bringing digital and customer and insights, and potentially a third with some housing finance experience too. So this advert is now live and you can see all the details by clicking on the link below. But we know that applying for a board role is a big decision. It takes a lot of work. So Ade and Juliette are here to give you a sense of what being on the board of Incommunities is really like. So Ade, we'll come to you first. What excites you about Incommunities' strategic direction over the next few years?
Thanks, Sarah. In terms of the next few years, we have just gone through a couple of years of major transformation in Incommunities, and we're now set on a platform to move forward into the future, delivering excellent services for our customers, our residents, developing the offer and involving our customers more in what we do. So it's really exciting times in Incommunities to be joining, because you're right at the beginning of a process which is really exciting for us, which delivers more in terms of what we want to see delivered for our organization. So it couldn't be a better time to be joining than now.
Brilliant. And how long have you been on the board?
I have been on for a few years. So this is my 6th year on the board. So I've got one more year now.
So you've seen them through the transformation?
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant. Juliette, what are the big themes shaping the housing sector right now, and how's the board navigating these?
There are three key areas facing the sector. One is the customer experience. There's an increased focus on what the customer journey is like across all aspects of the services. The other that is a very big challenge for the sector, and pretty much all of the housing associations I know, is the quality of the housing and sort of safety as well. Obviously, post Grenfell, there are lots of implications for anybody who's got tower blocks, but it is incredibly challenging to have to keep investing in your housing stock and obviously trying to improve the experience for all your customers. And then the final thing is a digital transformation, both trying to keep your organisation as efficient as possible, but also, again, the customer experience. So improving the way we communicate with all our customers, the way we get feedback from our customers, the way that translates into data-led decision-making. So I'd pick those three key things. And of course, behind all of that is finding the money to be able to do all of those changes.
Juliette, that's a good overview. And I think for someone who's applying to a housing board for the first time, then it is really helpful to get a sense of that backdrop. Thank you. So, Juliette, how would you describe the culture of the board and how it works with the exec team?
I would describe the culture of the board as really positive. I found it very supportive, but also quite challenging. So people challenge constructively. The relationships between members of the board are really positive and supportive, but also the relationship between all of the NEDs and the executive team. I'd say the executive team, I've been really impressed with how they work together, but also then how open they are and willing to be challenged and willing to kind of face up to the things that aren't going so well, that need improving. So I found it very open and transparent, which is really, really positive. It means that everybody can work together in terms of improving things, and everybody understands their relative roles. So the NEDs focus on the strategic issues and the exec focus on the operational and the delivery. And I think the quality of the papers that we get are really good. So generally, the governance and the processes are working very well.
Brilliant. Well, let's hear a bit more of that NED role. So what would a NED impact typically be in the organisation? Ade, could you share any sort of typical examples of NED input and where it's really made a difference?
I think there are a few areas which I can give as examples of where NEDs have made a real difference at Incommunities. I think I referenced a transformation program we've just gone through over the last few years that was initiated and was driven by NEDs who recognized the need for a major transformation in the way the organization positioned itself. And that took a while to get going, but then it's led to some dramatic changes in the way the organization faces the future. So that's one example of where NEDs really make a difference. But there are other smaller areas in terms of how we responded to AWAP's law, how we dealt with the challenge of our high-rise blocks and other parts and areas in which NEDs really do make a difference. So this is a role where you will definitely be contributing to make a difference to some of our customers who are some of the most vulnerable people in the community. So, make no bones about it.
Thank you, Ade. And Juliette, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I would say there's quite a lot that NEDs can impact. I mean, if you're involved in a particular committee, you will have impact in that committee on some detailed things. But then in terms of the board, you're part of a collective, but everybody contributes to that collective. And there have been times where the executive team have really needed to know that the board was supportive and that the board had the risk appetite to make some big decisions, perhaps around high-rise blocks, or as Ade said, when we went through the transformation programme, there were some really big decisions we made about the shape of the executive team, the culture of the organisation, our priorities, our transparency and accountability and reporting. And it was a total transformation programme. And that was a very big decision that the exec really needed the NEDs to be behind for it to be successful. So, I mean, endless examples.
Brilliant. And I know actually that changing chief exec is one of the biggest things that a board can go through. So obviously for being on the board through that time, the chief exec is going to manage the appointments below them, but actually the board managed the appointment of the chief exec. So it's a big role for the board to play and a great opportunity to shape the future of the organisation.
So if I may add, Sarah, I mean, when we talk about the board's role being strategic, actually what we mean in reality is that it's about making those choices about what we do, where we put our effort, where we focus our resources, where we focus our attentions. Do we go one direction or another direction? That really is the arena where NEDs make the greatest impact in the organization. And that is one that anybody joining this board will find to be really exciting in terms of how they work on the board.
Brilliant. And then just coming back to that customer, to the reason that you're there. So how do you think the board kind of ensure that customer voice, the safety and the service quality remain central to decisions?
Customer voice has, over the last few years, become a real area of focus for us in terms of how do we shape everything we do with input from that customer voice, whether through customer experience committee, whether through how we use that listening and influencing of customers in terms of understanding what they need, what they want, and what we're able to deliver to them. So you will find a thread through everything we do where there's always this question of how has customer voice shaped and influenced every single decision we make. And that's been a real difference over the last few years in terms of how we do things around here.
Thank you, Ade. Now, Juliette, coming to these new NEDs and what you're looking for, can you give me a sense of that digital and customer insight role? Why is it so important for the board and what sort of skills are you looking for there?
So in the digital space, we're looking to build on our existing experience. And I think there are two key areas that this person can help us with. One is ensuring that the board and the executive have a good understanding of how digital transformation can help the organisation to be efficient, to work well. That might be across platforms, AI, a variety of things. We have got a digital programme already in place, but I think we'd really like somebody with a lot of knowledge and expertise in that area to make sure that we are doing it as effectively as we can. The other key area is if somebody's got experience from the customer end of digital technology, the customer journey and their experience of services and how we can make the customer experience as positive as possible. So they don't have to be from the housing sector. They could be from any customer focused sector. So it might be somebody who's worked in retail, finance, pretty much any sector where they're having to deal with customers. I think that would be fantastic if we could get somebody who could cover that. If they happen to have cyber expertise as well, that would be great. But I think it's really the digital transformation expertise. If they've gone through a change program, have got some expertise on platforms and technology. That's kind of what we're looking for. That would be great.
Thanks, Juliette. That's really helpful. I know, 22,000 homes, there's a lot of homes to manage. There's a lot of data and processes around that. And then think of all the tenants that involves, more than 22,000. So that sounds like a great opportunity to bring value to Incommunities. And I hope someone hearing this is feeling those sparks when they hear you talk about that. Thank you. Ade, so why is the asset management role so important for strengthening the board right now?
So I chair the Development of Assets Committee, and we often get very excited with new developments and projects that we deliver, but we probably do about 300 to 400 new homes a year. The vast majority of our 22,000 homes are going to be affected one way or the other by the investment we bring towards the current asset that we own. So that is, I will argue, even more important than what sometimes gets a lot of airtime around new development. And we're looking for someone who possibly has some operational asset management experience, understands whether within the housing sector or another sector where they're looking at asset investment across a whole portfolio, understanding of compliance, understanding of regeneration. If you think you have experience in this area, then you probably are the right person for us. So we'd like to hear from you.
You add in, I know if you're leaving the board in a year, then that's going to create a bit of a vacancy in that committee as well. So it's helpful for you to get a sense of new talent coming in there. Thank you. Juliette, I know it said there's a minimum of 2 vacancies here. There might be a third in the housing finance space. Can you give me a sense of that one?
So we might also be looking for somebody who could join our audit and risk committee. And when we were looking at the mix of skills that we've got, we were thinking actually it'd be quite helpful if we could have somebody who had specific experience of housing finance rather than just finance or audit or risk. So if there is somebody out there who's interested, then we would encourage them to apply.
What do you think the sort of qualities and behaviours would help a NED be successful at Incommunities?
So I think the first thing is culture. If you're a thinking person, if you're a curious person, if you're interested in strategy and thinking about, the future and shaping the future and how you're going to get to that place, then this could be a role for you. I think it's really important that you can challenge constructively, that you can be part of a team because it is collective decision making. Obviously, you are there as an individual, but you make decisions as a board. So I would say those sorts of things. And obviously having values that align with the organisation because, it is a commitment and you want to be motivated. So I think having aligned values is pretty important too.
And Ade, we'll come back to you. So I know that you are undertaking this NED role alongside being head of real estate major projects at the Department of Work and Pensions, not an inconsiderable role either. So can you give us a sense of how you manage a NED role alongside a full-time job in case anyone else is in the same boat watching this video?
I will encourage anyone who is currently in a full-time role and considering applying to go for it. I think there are benefits that I take from this role, which I take back to my day job. And I think the fact that you are really at the coalface of, trying to deliver in the real world means that you bring some other added value to this. It's always going to be challenging managing diaries and trying to fit everything in, but there are peaks and troughs of that. Most of the time, it's probably okay. Sometimes it gets a bit more difficult, but we somehow make it work. But I think the benefits of it completely outweigh any of the challenges that it brings. So please go for it if you can.
Thank you, Ade. And Juliette, what would you say to someone that was considering applying for their first non-exec role with you guys? And what support would you give them?
So I would say this is a good organisation if you're thinking about your first role as a non-exec director, because we have an excellent induction programme and we can give you a mentor. One of your fellow NEDs will help you settle in and give you some top tips. So I would definitely encourage you. I think the culture is so positive that it's a good one to try. So please do come along. You don't have to look or sound like us. We're very happy to have anybody that has the right attitude, relevant skills, and is willing to give it a go.
So finally, any words for someone who is considering applying to join your board? Final words.
I think in one sentence, if you think you might have something to contribute, please do apply. We'd love to hear from you.
Juliette?
It's really hard to think of something other than what Ade's just said. I think anybody who's thinking of applying, do get in touch. And in fact, if you're looking at Incommunities and you're thinking you'd really be interested, but you don't think you quite fit the descriptions that we're giving in terms of skills, then just get in touch anyway, because things change, vacancies come up. So if you're interested, yeah, just get in touch, even if you don't quite fit the bill that we're describing.
Hey, thank you, Juliette. That's a real encouragement. So there is an email address that you can contact from an email search, Hannah, and we would love for you to drop a line and have a chat about this role if you're interested in applying. The application process is also laid out on the link below, so please do go for it. There's detailed information in that advert on the time commitment, remuneration, the specs for both those roles, and they're all available on that link. Ade and Juliette, thank you so much for bringing those roles to life. I've learned lots about Incommunities and your culture and the journey you've been on, so thank you so much for your time. And to all of you who are watching, good luck with your applications.